You're gonna do exactly what your big brother says.
Hurry!
Come on.
Spread out.
Thanks, everybody.
Hi.
Howdy.
Thanks so much for being here, you guys. Congratulations on the movie. Sacha, we can't say much about what people just saw, but can you, without giving away any details, talk about what went through your heart and in your head while you were shooting that?
What went through my
Heart and
and any other parts of my body?
well, let's start with the other parts of the body. That's
Yeah. Well, that scene took 3 days to shoot, literally.
It really did.
For me and Mark Strong, and to actually make it happen. I mean, the people watching online don't know what it is, but there are two ways to go with a comedy scene. Either you go sort of heightened, or we decided to go super real. So we got the prosthetics team who work with Ridley Scott. They're all Oscar winners. And we got this special effects team from Star Wars. And so everything there is constructed to the level of, like, you know, the highest end action film. And then, we suffered for 3 days.
Now, you're not the director of this film, but you are a co-writer, producer. I mean, the story really comes from you, and you're a big part of the movie. When you're producing this movie and they're bringing you the prosthetics and all this, what are you thinking about when you realize that your career has led up to sort of picking the right thing for this scene?
Yeah, it's a very powerful moment in anyone's life when. Because these guys are Oscar winners, so they're showing stuff, and they show 20 different versions of things, and there's a fluid in this scene that there were a lot of different tests to get the right type of fluid, and eventually we discovered it, and we made 14 tons of that fluid. We had, because of the danger involved in the scene, we had 2 divers who were in the fluid. Anyway, I don't want to give anything away.
And didn't everyone get ear infections from the fluid?
Yeah, that's right. We all got terrible ear infections so literally for a few weeks after we couldn't hear.
Gabby, you have a really fantastic sequence in the film. How did you get involved? Were you a fan of Sacha's? Did he contact you?
Oh, we just met today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was in character throughout the movie, so
You went
it's the
meth-
first time I introduced her.
Yeah.
Introduced myself to her. Yeah,
He's a nice guy. He's nice. He's kind of handsome.
looking lovely yourself.
Thank you.
Gabourey, come on.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's kind of a weird story. We were both at the Madonna Gaia series after Oscar party, and I was drunk.
We are both Oscar-nominated performer actors.
So we get to go to these fancy things. And I was drunk and I bumped into, I feel like I stepped on your foot or something. And I was like, sorry, dude. And I kept going. And he was like, no, I think you're funny. And I thought he was lying. So I was like, shut up. And he was like, no, I do think you're funny. And I said, fuck you, Sacha Baron Cohen. And then he said, no, really. And I said again, fuck you, Sacha Baron Cohen.
Because this was coming off of your nomination for Precious.
No,
You're like,
this
what the
wasn't
fuck?
even then. This was like 2 years ago or something. And I was drunk, remember? So I just like wasn't having it. And he was like, oh, I like you for this. I want to see you for this movie. Can you do an African accent? And I was like, I'm African, so probably. I was like a huge asshole. Sorry.
Wow, you were.
Yeah, I know. I was so drunk, you guys. It was really fun. And then he was like, who reps you? And I was like, she does. And then I walked away, and then it happened kind of that way. So the moral of the story is just be drunk, kids.
Get drunk and yell at your potential boss before they give you a chance. And what about Mark Strong? I mean, you cast he's your straight man in this
Yeah,
movie.
he
He's
was
fantastic.
drunk. He told me to go fuck myself. Trod on my foot. No, so what happened originally was the studio were kind of pushing all these kind of big stars to be my brother in the movie. And the concept was originally was like Borat meets Bond. But we didn't want it to be a spy spoof. We thought, all right, we want to do a kick-ass action film where the action is as good as any sort of spy movie out there. And we wanted this action star who could be real, who's like, you know, he's not playing a version of Bond. He'd be the guy that they would cast in a, you know, the newer, cooler alternative to Bond. And basically met up with Mark Strong. We did this improv, and he was amazing. Actually, in the improv, he did do some move, and I stopped breathing. He actually choked me out. I go, that's the guy. So yeah,
He
that's
knew
how we
action moves. He knew the moves of an action star.
Yes, I mean it was kind of actiony, a little bit rapey, but I gave him. He convinced me to give him the part eventually.
And now the part of Nobby, where did this come from? Because I feel like this is a sort of a big, broad action comedy, but it feels like you still like to tackle certain subjects. Your heart still belongs in tackling certain social subjects, like you did with Borat and like you did with Bruno. And Nobby, while at first is kind of a joke in that regard, it ends up becoming a sort of message. I don't want to label it a message movie on you, but there is a slight message about his character.
Come on, what's the message? I'm interested.
Well, that there is a benefit, there is a positive to this economic group that Nobby comes from, and that while we maybe shit on them, or that politically they aren't as well represented as they should be represented because they're a large force. That's where the movie ends up sort of coming from. I hope I didn't give anything away.
I don't think you did, but you completely confused me. No, listen, you're clearly a lot more intelligent than me, but. Yeah, basically, Nobby is the polar opposite of James Bond. You know, where James Bond is this, you know, ladies' man, you know, ruthless killer. Nobby is this guy who's full of love. He's got 9 kids, maybe 11. He's got a girlfriend who's the baby mama, who's played by the great Rebel Wilson, who's hilarious in it, and. You know, in society, to get slightly pretentious, which I love doing, by the way.
I set you up for it.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be relatively unpretentious after your comment. But in society, there are a lot of people on the right who see these people as scroungers, people who kind of leech off the system. And there's this assumption that if you're poor, it's because you choose to be, rather than because you were there because of circumstance. And so this is a kind of guy who in England is despised because he's not just a member of the working class, he's a member of the non-working class, and he's a welfare cheat. But he loves his family. You know, he drives his kids to school no matter how drunk he is. And he does enjoy drink and, a healthy amount of heroin. And basically, yeah, the idea was I wanted to turn this kind of villain in society into a hero. And obviously do some ridiculous, extreme scenes along the way, you know.
Yeah. And then within the movie itself, you take a fantastic shot. It's been written about. You take a fantastic shot at Donald Trump, which is in many ways the villain of this community in so many ways. What prompted you to take this shot at him?
Well, I always wanted to make a movie which ends with Donald Trump getting AIDS. And so I thought, what can the movie be? You know, I know the ending. What's the beginning? And eventually I worked it out, but, there are some subjects that you don't joke about. And, this is, it is something that could potentially bring misery to millions of people around the world, which is why I suggest you don't vote for him.
All right, yeah. Give it up. Gabby, I have to ask, what was it like shooting the scene that your big scene with Sacha?
That scene took 6 days to shoot.
Well, the lovemaking scenes take
Yeah.
a long time in my movies.
It took forever. I remember Louis, who was our director, at first I was wearing this bodysuit thing, and he was like, no, we gotta see more skin. And so talked me into just bra and panties.
He's French.
He's French, so that
He's French,
explains
so,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was, day one, I was kind of nervous. Day two, I was kind of over it. And by day 6, I was walking around completely naked. So...
Drunk or not drunk?
Drunk, definitely drunk. And that was what it was. Yeah, that was hard. Remember, I had to tiny freak out because they had me
do remember that. I do remember. Fair enough.
Yeah. I was doing this handstand on the bed, and all of a sudden I got really scared that I was gonna fall and hit my face on the thing. So I started crying because I'm a baby. And
No, not at all. That was it was physically very demanding. We put her through kind of every position of the Kama Sutra. So
yeah. I learned a lot of
everyone
things.
cries up to all those positions.
I learned a lot. It really opened my chakra, and I had the best orgasm of my life, so no regrets.
Thank you, Sacha, or Nabi.
That was actually Lou Leterrier, the director. He's French.
Can you talk about hiring Lou Leterrier for this movie? He's from Now You See Me, and more of an action director rather than straight comedy. Did he have to learn comedy from you while doing it?
Well, again, the idea was, this is not a spy spoof. The idea was, let's create this kick-ass action film and then throw an idiotic character into the middle of it and see how that changes the plot. So the problem was, we wanted the action to be as good as Bond, as good as Bourne. The issue was we had $150 million less to make the movie with. So me and Louis discovered this guy on the internet called Ilya Naishuller from Russia. And he had this brilliant idea where he sticks a GoPro on a stuntman's head and he fights people. And so he realized, okay, we can do these crazy action scenes just by creating this kind of helmet cam with this camera on this guy's head. All we need to do is find a stuntman who is stupid enough to fight these people for real. And so we found the guy who does a lot of the Marvel movies, when Robert Downey disappears into his trailer and, starts meditating, or this guy steps into the suit and does all the fighting. And basically, it's one of the craziest action sequences out there, and it's done for real. He's jumping off buildings, climbing under moving cars, fighting 8 people at a time. He gets run over. There were 7 stuntmen who preceded him, who I want to apologize to the families because I know they're in a better place now. And heaven looks after stuntmen. So no, we sent money to the families and chocolates and a signed autograph with a picture of me. So, pros and cons.
All's forgiven.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about Borat and Bruno in the press for this film, and talking about the sort of adrenaline rush that you would get while you were creating those films. And I'm curious, when it comes to The Dictator and it comes to Brothers Grimsby, if there's a certain other kind of rush that comes with the pressure of trying to create the same kind of laughs or as big a laughs when you don't have the catharsis of something, quote unquote, real happening on camera. The shock of Bruno or Borat tricking somebody into revealing themselves as something that they'd rather not reveal themselves as. When you go into making Brothers Grimsby or The Dictator, did you find yourself having to sort of adjust to a different kind of pressure?
I mean, yeah. I mean, when I'm shooting Ali G, Borat, Bruno, the main concern is not really the scene. The main concern is to get the fuck out of there when the guy pulls out a gun or the police turn up. So it really, you don't know what you're going to get away with, and it's usually I go back to my co-writer and I go, he goes, what did you get? But the main thing is you go into a place, you work out where the exits are, you have a car by the exit which is running with the door open, you find out, when we're doing Bruno, what percentage of people are, packing, and whether you can take the guns away, which is not easy in the South. Asking to take a man's gun away in the South of the United States is like asking to remove his penis. It's hard, although I have done it to a couple of guys out there. But that's a lawsuit we settled out of court. But yeah, so there's a different type of adrenaline. We wanted to make this a different film to The Dictator. Dictator was kind of more heightened. And the vibe here was to make it Borat meets Jason Bourne. So keep it more handheld, keep it a lot looser. We did a few versions of the script, and then there was a lot of improvisation, hence the Kama Sutra positions.
Speaking of the South, I mean, you clearly love the South. You're dressed in homage to the South today.
What do you mean?
We got a hat, you've got a bolo tie, you've got some beautiful boots here, you've got is that a buffalo shirt? I'm not sure how you define that cowboy shirt. Is it just cowboy shirt?
This is how we dress in London.
So you're a big fan of just country music and the South and London?
I've never heard of country music.
I really want to take this really far with you right now. Gabby, was it like this working with him on set all the time? Did you get answers like that to your questions?
Yeah, in between all the racial slurs, yeah.
I found racism was kind of the best way to get a great performance out of Gabby.
It's all I know.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of abuse. We had members of the KKK were on set. Just to provoke a reaction, keep that edge, keep the adrenaline going.
And
we had some neo-Nazis kind of chucking rocks at me as well. So all the minorities were kind of victimized. It was equally scary.
Yeah. That's how you get a good performance. Right. That's where Scorsese does.
It was an action film. It was an action film. So we needed that adrenaline.
If she didn't want to do a Kama Sutra position, you would just kind of like point to the KKK guys standing there.
He would burn a cross on my front door. Yeah.
Just in her eye line. So you could not really... a lot of people have said the lighting and the cinematography is great. That's because of the flames.
It was gorgeous, really.
It's actually a great glow. I mean, there's a lot of negative sides to the KKK, but
they're horrible.
They make your skin look great.
Warm and just golden hues come out. It's gorgeous.
Exactly. I understand why Donald Trump won't condemn them,
You also have Barkat Abdi in the film from
Actually, we
Captain
did have Trump did come down one day on set, and he was shouting racial abuse at you, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was weird.
And it was, but it was useful. He went too far, so we just...
Yeah, he's an asshole. Don't vote for him.
You did Bruno during the Bush administration, and one of Bruno's big, you did it before too, I think a little bit, but mainly its stardom was during the Bush administration, and you had your great line, "I support this president's war of terror." I'm wondering if the rise of Donald Trump and the possibility of Donald Trump in the White House makes you want to bring a character like Bruno back.
Well, that was actually the Borat rodeo scene. Yeah, the war of terror. Listen, firstly, I'm not a political analyst. I don't know much about politics. I'm just a guy who does dick jokes, So I would take what I say with a pinch of salt. But I know, however horrible it will be for America if Donald Trump wins, it will be great for comics because they will have somebody amazing to mock. But the interesting thing is, I've just come back from a world tour where we've been showing this movie. We showed it in Australia, Germany, Spain, France, England, even Norway. And when this terrible tragedy besets Donald Trump at the end, in every single audience around the world, they stand up and cheer. And I just remember being shocked. But what it kind of shows you is the latent hatred for this guy. You know, so he's amusing, he's funny, but, you know, if he does get in, and again, take what I say with a pinch of salt, this will be a much more isolated country. You know, if that is the response internationally.
I want cameras across the country for when the movie's released on Friday so that Trump supporters can be identified at the end of the movie for the people that get really upset about it and something happens.
Walking out.
Yeah. Oh, we know who you are. Let's take them off. Let's get them out of here. Can you talk about casting Barkat Abdi from Captain Phillips in this film? We haven't seen him really since Captain Phillips, and he's great.
Yeah, well, he's extremely cheap. He was great in the movie. In a slightly bit of racial stereotyping, he plays a drug dealer in a South African shantytown. But he's very good. He was great. Where is he from originally? Bucket? Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
But I think he's Somali. I think he might be.
I think Somalian. Yeah. So we ended up shooting in this township actually in South Africa, which was great actually. We were there for 3 days. We had to get like the approval. The local sort of gangs run it. So we had, you know, you get there the first day and there are like 50 of their local guys with massive clubs who were standing around, and that's how you shoot, essentially. Oh. Yeah, it sounds immoral, but that's the way you do it for cheap. Yeah.
When it comes to doing the action sequences in this film, it's sort of a somewhat new thing for you.
Don't worry, it's not live. They're going to remove this.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Was it difficult?
Thank God it's not on the net.
Was it difficult?
Things don't last on the internet, right?
Was it difficult for you to do these action sequences as Nobby? Did you find yourself sort of having to do this character because he has a run, he's got these silly clothes on? Was it harder to do? I mean, you could watch Mark Strong just kind of jump over things and do things as himself. Did you find it difficult to do the scenes?
Well, I am actually a member of the Stuntman's Association. Well, one of them. There's about 20 of them. So the reality is, I know Tom Cruise always shows off that he does his own stunts. I try to avoid doing my own stunts because I've had to do that stuff for real in Borat and Bruno and the Ali G show, and you end up getting really badly hurt. So when there are stunts, I try to, you know, find, you know, the stupidest stuntman around and just go, it's a great idea. You'd be amazing at this bit where you jump out of this building. Yeah, so only some of them are me.
I think we have some time for questions from the audience. Does anyone have any questions out here in the audience? Sir? Was that a mic?
Yep. Hi, Sacha. Okay, my question is, in the future...
Where are you from?
Israel.
Oh, shalom, shalom.
Dziękuję. Shalom. My question is, in the future, do you see yourself making more these kind of unscripted movies, such as Bruno or Borat?
That's the end of the question?
Yeah.
Very strange intonation, but I love it. The people are different. I honestly don't know. Most comedians or comic actors, they have a plan. They go, all right, we're doing 3 movies a year, and I'm terrible at business, so I end up doing 1 every 3 years, and then I've got no idea what I'm doing at the end of the movie. So sorry. Thank you.
Next question.
Hey, Sacha. I love your movies and your characters. Have you ever thought of having some of your characters like Borat meet each other or maybe team up like the Avengers in a movie together?
I mean, the difficulty is I play all the characters.
Yeah, how would that happen?
So, you know, I'm waiting for that kind of, the technology to be there for me to be in 2 places simultaneously.
Next question. There's something going on here? Okay.
Hi. Ron Paul.
Hi, Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh.
I recognize you, yeah.
That's me. The Ron Paul scene, was that improvised? Did he know that was going to happen?
You'll be surprised to know Ron Paul didn't know that he was going into a room to be sexually molested by a gay Austrian man. No, basically what happened, has anyone here seen the movie Bruno? So, you disgusting bastards. It's bloody sick, that film. So people out there who haven't seen it, I play this gay Austrian fashion reporter. And I interview Ron Paul at one point. He was a presidential candidate. And the sort of lights go off and we end up having to stay in another room. And I try and seduce him because I realize that if I make a sex tape with someone famous, I can get famous in the movie. And I think, all right, it's this guy Ron Paul. He's amazing. So I'm like, Ron, this is fun, you know. Has anyone ever told you you're a very good-looking guy? He said, no. Anyway, it got on. He eventually got a bit angry. He didn't want to make love to Bruno, which I found kind of insulting. And at the time, he was a presidential candidate, so they have Secret Service around them. And he told the Secret Service, and actually, he used quite a slur, actually, on the way out, which I won't use, using the F word. And but the problem is, because he had Secret Service, we knew that I was going to get arrested pretty soon. So luckily, we had this kind of undercover cop with us. And my lawyer, I have this group of lawyers who live in India, long story. In the case of Smith versus Arkansas, it is very clear that that was actually the lawyer was the inspiration for the character I did in Madagascar, the I like to move it guy. And the lawyer said, this guy's a presidential candidate, Secret Service are now after you, you've got to get out of Washington immediately. And so this undercover cop we had, basically, he said, all right, you know, I knew I needed to get to the airport in 15 minutes, and he just said to me, he goes, listen, have you ever driven fast? And I said, no, I haven't actually. And he goes, all right, come downstairs. We ran downstairs. He had his cop car with him. And basically, he put on some Marvin Gaye, and he hit the floor with his foot, and we drove 90 miles an hour to the airport, and I was out the state within, you know, half an hour. So,
Do you miss those days?
what, running out of states?
Yeah.
There was one, I don't want to drag on or bore anyone, but I'll tell you one other quick little story, just leaving a state in a rush. So I was doing Borat, and I was in Tennessee, and we went to some plantation, and they had a lot of African-American workers in the plantation who were pretending to be slaves. And they were actually paid a similar amount to what slaves were paid at the time. But i.e. nothing. And I was going, oh, can I buy one of your slaves? And the woman was getting very upset. She called the police. And we realized the problem was, if I got arrested, I'd have my work visa, rescinded. Rescinded? Or whatever it is. My English is, minimal.
You'd be sent back to the UK.
That's the one. Okay, so basically we knew that the cops were coming, and so I said, all right, I'm going. And I knew I had to get into Mississippi. We were about 3 miles away from Mississippi. So do you remember I had this car, which was an ice cream van, ice cream truck. So that became my getaway car. And I'm there with Azamat, the 250-pound guy who sat on my face. And I hit the accelerator, and the top speed is about 35 miles an hour. And I hear on the walkie-talkie, all right, the cops are here, go, 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 go. And I can see the bridge far away, and I know I have to get there. And I hear on the walkie, the cops have set off, and they're going fast. And so I knew I wasn't going to make it to the bridge, so I kind of zoomed 30 miles an hour, into this side road, and got this researcher to follow me in a car, switch cars with him. I was lying on the floor. He drove the ice cream truck. He drives off first. And I can see the bridge into Mississippi. I know once I get onto that bridge, I'm free. And we're driving, and I'm lying on the floor. And the person driving the car said, look, poke your head out the window now. And we're just coming right up to the bridge. and it was the ice cream van was surrounded with 7 cop cars, and they were kind of ripping it apart, trying to find me within it. Drove over into Mississippi, and here I am.
Oh my God. Wow, that's unbelievable. I have a quick follow-up to that, and then I'll take it back to the audience, of course. But
You like going to Mississippi?
I don't think I've ever. Oh, yeah, I have been there. Yeah, this is a dark time in my life.
there's so much stuff. There's deleted scenes and stuff for Bruno and Borat. But is there so much footage that you guys shot that you couldn't even really cut into a full deleted scene that exists, that's around, that's like stuff like that?
Yeah, you mean in one of the other movies, yeah?
Yeah, in Bruno.
Yeah,
and Borat.
in Borat, there's a scene where Borat's looking for a job. It's just after if you've seen the naked fight. And he's left, he's sad, and he's penniless because his partner has stolen the bear and his money. And so I get this job, and I don't realize it's to be a porno star. And so we shot at this actual porno film. So they were shooting a porno movie in this hotel, and they were told I was this Kazakh guy who was a Kazakh porn star. So I walk into the room, and I'm going to be a room service guy, and these people are having sex. So I walk in, they're having sex, quite, full-on sex. And I walk in, I go, I come back later, I apologize. And the director shouted, cut, He goes, no, you got to come in, you go, and, they get the room service, he gets your, the dick, and da-da-da. I go, okay, I got. And I come in again and knock on the door, room service, come in, and they're still having sex. I go, no, I return again. They said, no, you don't understand. You have to have sex with this woman. Okay, so eventually Borat understands, and I go, okay, I will have sex, but please remove the cameras. And he goes, no, the cameras have to stay. And eventually, this lasts about an hour, and I start saying, oh, okay, I will make a sexy time, but I cannot do with her because she have no hair on her pubis. Does she have a nuclear retardation? And he goes, no, because she's got, the girls here, they're fully shaved, they're waxed, and no, that's the way we do it. I go, I cannot make a sexy time with no hair on pubis. And he goes, the guy got so frustrated, the director, that he goes, you know what? He goes, I'm going to chop off some of my own hair and stick it on her pubic bone. And so, cut to me, I'm knocking on the other doors, going, excuse me, I'm looking for scissors to chop my friend's hair so he can stick it on the pubis of this lady. And eventually, room service brought up some scissors. He chops his hair off and glues it on her pubic bone. Is this going out to kids? What kind of fucked up organization is AOL? Jesus Christ, when are you going to start censoring the internet? I mean, this makes no sense. This is like the first days of television.
Do not stop telling the story.
So basically, I'm in this, so it's me, this director, who's furious. I've been in his room for 2 hours, and this porn star who's got his hair glued on to her pubic bone. And by the way, in the corner is the guy who's still pleasuring himself, trying to keep himself hard for the rest of the scene. Kids, your parents will explain everything I'm talking about. And he goes, okay, are you ready to have sex with her? I go, yes, I love a sexy time. I have had a syphilis over 8 times. And she went, syphilis? I'm not doing this. And she walked out the room.
That was an incredible story. I have definitely held you up too long. I have to let the two of you go. Thank you so much for being here. The Brothers Grimsby comes out this Friday. It's so funny, Sacha. Congratulations.
And to her, she's hilarious in it.
Gabby, you are incredible in it. Thank you so much for being here, you guys.
Thank you to
Friday.
you.
Thank you.
It's Friday.
Apologies to everyone at home.